I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook baby.
And we're rolling. Judson, dude, welcome back to the show, man. This is your fourth time on the show. I think this is a record, man.
Really? Okay, I didn't know
I,
that.
I think you're definitely no one over 4, but
Right.
but you're definitely in the top. Maybe Alma, I was thinking you and Alma might be the only, and Anthony, I forget, but definitely you're tied for first, if not first.
Well, let's keep it going.
Yeah, man.
Gum
I
routine.
like talking to you guys always, so it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, man. So you've had some pretty big changes in your life. So you recently moved to Sao Paulo, Brazil, right?
Yep.
How's that going, man? Are you guys all settled into the new place, or you guys still have like living out of cardboard boxes and stuff? Or
No, we got that stuff done pretty quickly. We're pros at it by now. I mean, I've started over so many times, and we've had several apartments and a house, and we're pretty settled into the apartment. It's a little smaller. Sao Paulo's, it's not a cheap place. It's kind of like it's kind of like a New York in terms of in the context of Brazil. So, I mean, our apartment's a little bit smaller, which makes my workspace a little bit smaller. But honestly, by now, I kind of feel pretty comfortable and it's kind of been like normal now at this point, And the reason we moved here is because we lived in, more of the countryside of Brazil. Minas Gerais, the state of Minas Gerais. We lived in a city called São Lourenço. And then we lived in Piracicaba. We did a little traveling here and there in between those places. But those are all countryside cities.
right.
And, we just started to realize that we needed a little more going on, museums and arts and culture and those places are slow, and they're slow for a reason, and people move there for a reason.
Right.
But I think some of the influence for that was kind of COVID, and this was, back when that was more of a relevant thing. And so, it made sense to sort of get out of the madness, but now we sort of want to jump back in it, I guess,
Hell yeah, man. So I'm curious, like, so with all like the different sceneries that you've had over the last few years, like, has that had an impact on your creative process? Like from the countryside to the big city again and back and forth, like, has that like influenced your, like, like either like the routine that you've had or like the ideas and how they've come in? I'm just curious how that's impacted your creative process at all.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, certainly with painting, I've embraced more figurative and landscape type of work, probably because of the visuals you get. Being exposed to more Brazilian artists, Portinari is sort of a big impactful painter. Even with the film, we sort of knew that Minas Gerais we weren't going to be there for forever. And so the way that that countryside and the way I don't know, I mean, the colors, the sky, I mean, all that we tried to sort of pack into the film to sort of document it and have it really provide context for the character.
Right.
So, I think a lot of these things creep in, here and there, kind of like all the time, So I don't know if it's had much impact on schedule, although I have more free time than I did in LA, but I still think I'm kind of on the same bit,
Right. So tell us about the film. So like last time we were talking about that, you were kind of in the early stages of that. So how's that coming along?
Well, the film is purposefully maybe longer than it needs to be for several reasons, or maybe just as long as it should be. The characters that I'm playing, I'm playing different characters, and they have different stages of development, and they have different hair lengths, and one has a beard, and there's a sort of a vagrant type character that I play who's, he's got long hair, and I've got a little more weight on me, and I've got this big beard, and natural things that take time to actually develop actually just do take those time.
Right.
It's like, we don't have the experience to do a prosthetic beard or a prosthetic belly or something like that. We don't have the experience or the money. So trying to do these things as organically as possible takes a lot of time.
Right.
So right now, we finished a character that's based on the legend of Vincent van Gogh. And then we've completed a character that's based on the vagrant type that I mentioned. And the plan always was to then do there's a folk character type sort of based on the legend of Bob Dylan. We're calling it Bobby Dean because I don't want to reference it too closely.
Okay.
But, we had this idea, a long time ago. When I say we, I'm talking about my collaborator in art and life in many ways, but my wife, Yasmin, who's a big part of this film. But with the Bobby Dean thing, we were planning it, and I had written certain aspects of it, and then a complete unknown was announced. And it was kind of like, oh, shit, how fuck. So I kind of wanted, that was a little bit of a moment where you have to go, okay, just maybe let this moment pass, which I think it kind of has. I think there was a lot of expectations that there would be some, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. I probably will, but we are fortunate for one thing is that the direction that I wanted to take the Bob Dylan-esque character, the filming of it would mimic more a documentary style. If you're familiar with those old documentaries about Eat the Document, the Don't Look Back tour, Martin Scorsese used a lot of this footage in No Direction Home. And so what I've been able to gather from the recent biopic with Timothy Chalamet is that it's actually the opposite of that. It's more of a glossed over what you would expect from Hollywood. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It could be a great thing. I don't know. Haven't seen it. But I'm glad that accidentally they didn't, not that I can compete with it. You know what I mean? But I don't want people to watch this and think, oh, you got that idea from that.
Right.
So it's, adding some much more film grain that's needed, doing a lot of scenes in black and white, purposefully having bad sound when it makes sense, purposefully having strange cuts to make it look. There's this old documentary of the Rolling Stones called Cocksucker Blues. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
no, I haven't heard that one.
Mm-hmm.
It's got people shooting up, and there's there's some nudity, but it's all just really bad.
Yeah.
Some stuff is so blown out you can't even tell who's talking. And then for a snippet you get, okay, this is Mick Jagger talking or this. But it's also trying to be one of those old rock and roll documentaries that are just stitched together from things that are just sort of non sequiturs to get a character out.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of working on that. And that's where we are. And then after that, there's 2 more characters to go. And now feels like the time where for the film it's time to start writing and visualizing, the exit door for the film, or else it'll be a 4-hour long independent film that's not really that's not the direction I want to go in, but
Right.
But we're the light is at the end of the tunnel with what we want to do and what my original sort of vision of it was, I suppose. But it changes a lot, so it evolves.
Now that you've moved, are you gonna have a character in Sao Paulo, or is that gonna change the story at all?
Well, it'll change aspects of the filming. We're shooting with an iPhone, and funny enough, one of the most common crimes in Sao Paulo right now is phone theft. Not the best time to be walking around just shooting with your phone, even though I think there's ways around that, and it sort of spooks us out in a little way because we don't want to draw attention. But in the countryside where we could just film on the streets and not be bothered. But there, you might hear, I should say, you'd be drawing a little more attention. But we've always had a character that was more or less based as an urban character, and the urban character is sort of a sexual deviant, kind of a pseudo cross-dresser type. And all the characters are exploring a kind of aspect of the natural character. That's the person that isn't playing a character. Just there's a natural character where I am playing almost myself, and then I go into these other characters.
Yeah.
But we've always had a character that was kind of I don't know, urban and neon and taking advantage of all the visuals of the metropolis and also having those extolling those virtues or those vices, if you will, having very, very centered in the city.
Right. So you're basically going gonzo for this film then, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. It's experimental, and sometimes I feel like I know what I'm doing, and sometimes I don't. The one saving grace, though, is that I think when people hear like, "Oh, you're shooting it on an iPhone," it's like, "Oof, this is going to be rough." But the imagery that we've gotten and the scenes that we've gotten are we're really actually proud of. We work very hard on the lighting and the quality. And if like in the case of Bobby Dean, if something is degraded and of low quality, it's of course on purpose because it has to mimic something that's been aged. So playing around with that is a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. So Ben and I, we've been talking a fair bit about David Lynch over the last 6 months or so, and he's known for like being very experimental. And there was one film, I think it was Inland Empire, which was one of his later films. And I don't remember which actor it was, but when they showed up to set, because he didn't have a finished script, so they showed up to set and like, hey, so what's the film about? And then he puts their arm around them and he goes, "We'll find out together." Yeah. so I like
Thoreau because he's in that, right?
Huh?
Was it Justin Thoreau?
Justin Thoreau. I can't remember if it was him or if it was that Jurassic Park lady.
Oh yeah, he loves her.
Yeah. But
she was in that film for sure.
Laura Dern.
Yes. But so somebody showed up to set was like, so what am I doing? What are we doing? It's like, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I happen to like David Lynch's. From what I can gather, he's pretty open about his process, and he's pretty open about how he works.
Yeah,
I tend to like his philosophy more than I like his films. Probably make enemies saying that. I don't like the 90s aesthetic as much as some people. It really is a distraction for me. There's a coldness to it. And anything that I say I don't like about a David Lynch film, off the bat I recognize it's completely on purpose. I mean, he's not doing these things by accident. It's just an aesthetic difference. But the way that he talks about film and the way that he talks about being an artist, I definitely, those are elements of his work that resonate with me more so than anything.
Yeah.
And that Inland Empire movie was certainly, I mean, the whole thing was filmed on a cell phone.
Well, it was shot with like a cheap like Best Buy digital camcorder, so it has a really grainy. Because the shot it came out like 2006, so it's like he shot it
Okay,
with
yeah. I thought it was
$150.
like a Nokia.
It looks like it.
Yeah. It's really bad.
iPhone. I feel like you could shoot better looking footage now on an iPhone today than what would have cost way more in 2005 or whatever whenever that movie came out. But yeah, I mean,
different lenses and applications can really ramp up your native camera's potential.
Yeah.
But also that's another element that, I mean, I've been kind of playing with like what that means in a way. And like, I really don't, I because of making this film, I've been watching a little more and interacting a little bit more with independent filmmakers and watching more, short films, independent films. And I really don't think that everything requires that level of glossiness. Sometimes, there's certain elements of film that are very sort of obvious, like film loves blue and orange lights. Those two lights work very well together.
Right.
Likes crispiness, it likes clarity. But if you're not willing to break some of those rules every now and then a lot of films start to look and feel the same because the editing is invisible, the lighting is impeccable, everything is so immaculate and perfect. There's definitely elements of this film that we could have reshot or rethought, but the graininess works on some of them. For instance, you can't really shoot an iPhone unless maybe you have some piece of tech that you can attach to it, but iPhone does not like darkness.
Right.
It does not have the capability to take in the light to shoot in the dark. So if you shoot anything as a night scene, unless you just have a spotlight on one particular thing, you're not really going to get that sense of clarity. But I think that's leaving some of those things in there. It's a little bit of a hint and a little bit of a shrugging and saying, yeah, we did shoot this on an iPhone and we're going to keep that, even though it's not distractingly bad.
Right.
But it's clearly not as crisp as some other shots in the film. But I can't get on board with that bothering me to death. I think it's actually kind of okay. It's a raw thing that happens, and it's almost like an Easter egg. Like, yeah, we shot this on a phone. So
yeah,
because there's going to be parts where you wouldn't think that.
No, I totally get you, man. So I had a roommate here who he doesn't live with me anymore, but we're still friends. But he works in the film industry. He does like sound for movies and TV shows. Yeah. And for a while, we had this dream of like being independent filmmakers. But like one of the things that he and I differed on quite a bit was that like, for me, I'm just like I don't care what kind of camera we have. I don't care if we have like a shitty security camera. Like fine, like we'll create a story around that and we'll shoot something with that. But he was always, because he was so used to shooting on bigger budget commercials and TV shows, he was always like, well, I think we should spend the extra $2,000 to buy this. I think we should spend $3,000 to buy that. I'm like, you're turning creative problems into financial problems now. Like, and we're never going to shoot anything because every time we're like, okay, cool. We have a camera, we have recording equipment. Let's shoot something. Well, we don't have this. We have to buy that. I'm like, I fucking throw all of that away. We'll shoot with our fucking iPhones. We'll just shoot what we have right now in our backyard. We'll come up with a dumb little story, but it's at least we're creating something.
Yeah.
But I don't want to throw him under the bus, but it was just sort of like something that we went back and forth on. We're sort of like, to be fair to him, he's used, like I said, he's used to shooting with a big crew. So it's like, hey, this is how things are done in the industry. We have to make sure we have this. We got to get a crew with this. I'm like, it's just you and me, and we have an iPhone. And in fact, we actually have a few grand worth of camera and sound equipment. We have more than enough to shoot something. But I'd much rather shoot something that, even if it looked and sounded kind of unprofessional, was interesting and unique and experimental, rather than shoot something that was glossy but bland and boring. Right.
No, I mean, actually, the Blair Witch Project kind of opened up a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah.
Me and Yasmin, we still watch that. I think we've watched it once a year.
Yeah.
Since I've been in Brazil, because the footage is obviously shit.
Yeah.
But it's so it just works so well with the story. So you can factor that into what you're doing.
Yeah.
And ultimately most people most of the time are going to learn more by doing something, struggling through it, and getting it done.
Yeah.
And then saying, okay, well, this wasn't as good as we thought, or
Right. Yeah.
or we could have done this better, or whatever. But then you go to your next project, and then you take that knowledge with you, as opposed to someone who's never shot any footage at all and is saving up every paycheck to buy a $10,000 camera.
Right.
It does feel a little backwards at that point.
Well, Werner Herzog, and I might have brought this up on previous episodes, but Werner Herzog, he had this film school where he would take a group of filmmakers, like young amateur filmmakers, and he would drop them off, and he would like, okay, we're going to go out to the Amazon. You each have a camera and a sound recorder, microphone and a recorder. Go out and make something. So whether you have to steal or cheat or like beg and borrow, you have to like, be like manipulate natives into acting in your film. If you have to wake up at a weird time of day to shoot the moon poking through the jungle trees or something, fine, do it. I'm dropping you off in the jungle for 10 days or 20 days. Shoot something interesting. You have the bare necessity that you need. Go shoot something interesting. And I think that's a much better philosophy. I don't know if I want to go into the Amazon with Werner Herzog. That sounds a little scary, but the basic idea of like, you can record image, you can record sound, and you have an interesting background. You have a jungle with natives in a small village. You can with a good imagination, you could shoot something really interesting. Get the fuck out there and make something.
Little do people know that's how Cannibal Holocaust was made.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, basically. Yeah. But yeah, man. I dig that philosophy of just.
It's definitely a guerrilla exercise for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and also like because you're shooting on with an iPhone, it's like editing software is very cheap and even free. So you can, it's like I'd rather have a lot of crummy looking footage, but like have more colors to play with that I can edit and move around in interesting ways.
I'm doing all the editing myself and the color correction and all of the things that come along with that. Of course, I've found myself playing with the playback speed. Yeah. Obviously sound is a big thing. It's interesting to take on, you go to you have to dub in a sound for some reason. Yeah. At some point, Vincent's, shooting with a gun up in the air, but I had to search for a long time to get like what it's like for a old pistol to be shot off into the sky and in the woods. Yeah. And once you find it, you're like, oh, that sounds like it's really. Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many interesting things to play with. It's really fun to do a lot of this stuff. Do a lot of this stuff yourself, and I think a lot of the pressure that other people are probably responding to is having deadlines and deadlines, due dates, studio execs, and if I ever got there, maybe I could handle it then, but I'm not there yet, and I don't particularly want to be there, Oh yeah. So I think we're cruising along pretty fine with how this film is going, and we're in our almost fourth year, because like I said, the characters just take that much time, right. And but I think the timeline and it taking that much time is part of its strength. I mean, if you look on a camera, like, it doesn't take but like 6 months to notice someone's aged a little bit if you're paying attention. You know what I mean? And so if you extend that logic over the course of a few years, it should feel like a journey that took a few years. And that's kind of what we're going for. It's like an epic odyssey of personalities and identity and all that stuff. So I think that'll sort of, be organically injected into the film, and hopefully a viewer could could sense that, you know.
Nice. So after this, you want to do like a Marvel movie? You want to do like a because that's what I'm hearing. No, so do you have plans? So you have like you know, are you gonna like maybe submit it to like film festivals or?
Yeah, I think as we've moved to Sao Paulo, we've become more aware and we've built some casual friendships with some people who understand those areas more than we do. And it's such a strange film and it's done in such a strange way. I wouldn't be opposed for it to have a kind of strange style of marketing. I don't know what that entails. I don't know what that means, but it isn't a film that if you're going to break this many rules and do this your own way, you can do the marketing your own way too. If you have a good idea and you know how to do that. Right. I'm not saying that I do at this point, but it's kind of one of those things where get the project done. In the meantime, research some festivals, research maybe some independent distributors, shake some hands, get people excited, you know, reach out to your people about it. And then ultimately it might be one of those things where you just kind of have to walk through whatever door opens at that time. But of course, in any industry, when one door opens, another one immediately shuts because you can't have it both. Sometimes you have to make a decision. And like if you self-publish your book, it's not written in stone, but many times a publisher isn't going to want to hear from a literary agent about a book that's already been self-published. They kind of want to handle that themselves. There's examples. There's examples that are contrary to that, like 50 Shades of Grey. If your book starts to sell enough copies, then Ben, if your book sells enough copies
that have broken the mold. The Martian, 50 Shades of Grey, but the vast majority, they want the rights to everything. They want the first printing. The Shack is another one, but those are like drops in the bucket of books. Yeah,
they want to do all the marketing and all the everything from cover design, and they want to
own it
from scratch, basically.
Yeah.
So it's not that dissimilar as far as I know in the film world either. So you could break the mold, but I'm not sure that's not necessarily the mold that I'm really trying to break necessarily. We'll just have to see. But I am researching it, and Yasmin's researching it, and we're open to see what the options are once we have a finished product. But we're still
get it out there. You gotta get out. Word of mouth sometimes is like Joe and I. We do I don't know if you've seen it, but we do a what do you call it, a sub series or we call it Shed Selections. So it's one of us just kind of picks a movie that we love or really like or whatever, but we don't think gets enough attention. So it's not just like, what's your favorite movie? Like, no, we're not doing that because that's a lot of people's favorite movies. Movies that, I love this movie and I don't think a lot of people know about it, or I love it for this reason. So one of them is called Ink, which we did. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was like probably 2009, I think. And that movie's known for, I heard just word of mouth. Like it was shot by maybe a brother-sister pair, or maybe it's two brothers. I can't remember, in Denver. It's kind of a unique sci-fi type movie, but somewhat paranormal. Not exactly. I don't know, Joe, you've seen it. I don't know how you describe it.
Sort of like sci-fi thriller, sort of like almost like kind of dark fantasy, I guess. Like those elements of dark fantasy with drama. Yeah.
And it's real. I love that movie. There are obvious issues with like some of the budget, but there's nothing you can do about that. Some of the lighting and acting, but it was like that's just a movie that I know had this groundswell of support just because they recognize that's something unique. It's cool. It's a great story, but no one would know about it if they didn't get it out there somehow.
Right. Yeah, I should check that out actually. The film, but what was this is a podcast, another podcast thing, or is it?
what we do?
What's the format of the Shed series?
Oh, that's just something Joe and I. So we'll just do like an episode. Like, hey, do you want to do a Shed selection this week? So it's just the regular. It's not like a different podcast. It's just
okay. No, it's just a feature of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's a I don't know what you call it. Not a bit, but it's like a just
subtopic, I guess.
What was that?
Yeah, it's like
subtopic.
Yeah, like it's like a special sort of like one-off.
Yeah, we've probably done like 5 of them.
Yeah.
When
But yeah, I mean, like,
talk about.
The purpose of it is to focus on a film that isn't widely known. Like we're not going to dedicate an episode to Back to the Future Part 2. Like we're not.
Like I love Back to the Future, but that's not a Shed selection. That's
I really like that Jurassic Park movie. That was pretty good. I watched Titanic.
Yeah, these are usually I would call like indie movies. The Vast of Night was one of mine. Society, one I love particularly, not because I think it's like a great movie overall, but the practical effects are just unbelievable. It's really kind of gross, very disturbing type. I think it's like 89, so like late 80s sort of body horror stuff. Like, a lot of people don't know. Like everyone knows The Thing. Not everyone, but like people who know horror and practical effects like know The Thing, right? So it's like, okay, you like The Thing, watch Society. Yeah, it's not nearly as good of a movie as The Thing, but it has a lot of what you love about The Thing.
Yeah, I see.
But yeah, I mean, getting back to Ben's point though, where it's like there is, I think, a market for, hey, you got to check this movie out. Like it's weird, but it's also interesting. It's pretty cool, but it's kind of hard to find.
There's definitely too. It's so easy to share stuff.
Yeah.
Also too. I mean, I'm sure that Hollywood right now probably still puts out enough good film to justify its existence, but there's a lot of filmmakers who are. And just people that are veering away from the Hollywood dynamic and wanting more and feeling like, they're being fed something from Hollywood. And sometimes that's something like it's woke, or sometimes it's the Marvel comic universe. But there's definitely a hunger for more original styles of storytelling, less templated films. Less one act, 2 act, 3 act type of.
I mean, like I think Ben and I we've talked a lot about the quote unquote vibe shift, where it's sort of like moving away from sort of like simplistic hyper progressive garbage to like now people like a lot of those types of movies are starting to flop. A lot of Marvel movies in recent years have not been doing very well. A lot of Disney movies have not been doing well. Star Wars.
Hold on, real quick. Did you see that? Like, now I have no idea what the message is going to be, but like Oscar Isaac is voicing Jesus in a movie coming out. Like Mark Hamill's in it. Yeah. And like all these A-list celebrities, and it's not like by Disney where it's going to be like, like trans Jesus or something. It's by like Angel, which is a studio that like makes sort of right-wing movies. Right. So like I couldn't imagine if you told me in 2021 that like Mark Hamill is going to be in a movie about Jesus, unless it was some sort of like anti-Christian thing somehow. Right. I would that. So that kind of speaks to the vibe shift.
No, definitely. I think fans overall are getting sick of like the glossy, hyper progressive Hollywood bullshit that's been forced down people's throats for the last 10 years or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. Like there might be like a growing market for something that's more interesting and outside the box and is willing to take some more creative risks. So yeah, man, keep us posted on that, man. We'd love to help spread the word about that.
Well, that would be great, man. That would be great. I mean, I always think there's probably a market for something outside the box, but now it seems more like a genuine attraction, hunger for it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not saying that the film, our film is is going to be that. I have no idea, but I wanted to ask you because Joe, you're on Substack.
Yeah.
Are you, Ben? You're not on Substack, no?
No, I'm not on Substack.
Well, just since we're talking, about film and sort of, there's a lot of independent filmmakers and a lot of, film-oriented people on Substack right now, and it seems like maybe it's just my feed because I click on a lot of it, but there's a growing culture there. You can feel it on Substack, really strongly. So, I'm pretty active on Substack. I post a lot of essays and whatever, but that's a place that definitely has that conversation going, and you can feel it. They're really talking about the same exact stuff we are, and with a lot of gusto and a lot of with a lot of passion and a lot of optimism, I guess.
Yeah, and what's cool about the growing sort of creative class on Substack is that it's not reactionary. It's not just like a bunch of ultra conservative, ultra right wing Christian people producing, heavily like heavy handed art. It seems like there's more authenticity, more sort of like, hey, let's put beauty out into the world. Let's create something interesting and authentic rather than sort of hyper, political, hyper glossy nonsense out there. Let's promote individuality out there.
And hyper templated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, people want to be surprised. I find the same thing. I don't think that it's reactionary or necessarily politically motivated. And when it is, it's not necessarily reactionary, but it's to not have to be reactionary.
Yeah.
They don't want to be totally reactionary to the woke or the conservative movements. Let's talk about people and individual voices and an individual vision and support, just like you guys are talking about with the mentioning of the shed. It's like, let's shine a light on things that maybe wouldn't pass through the industry gates as easily.
Right. Well, I don't know a whole lot about if Substack has like a film distribution wing, but I know I did see a film last year that they did co-distribute or they co-produced. It was a documentary. Yeah, the Jonathan Haidt one, the Calling of the American Mind. That was like a co-production with Substack and I think Fire or something like that. But anyway, so I don't know if they're like, I haven't really checked in on that, but I don't know if they're kind of getting into independent film production or distribution. That might be something worth looking into.
I think it was more. I don't know if they're doing that in that exact way. I think they were certainly very open to push that.
I think they were basically treating it like a high-profile blog post, where it's like
exactly,
you still had to pay to get it, but at least like you had, with Substack, you had a built-in heterodox audience who was willing to pay, $5 to see this movie or something like that, but to treat it like it was like, written, like a blog post from a top, independent journal or something like that.
There was
but anyway,
like a bump in the numbers from Substack on some level.
Yeah, no, definitely. But at the same time, like I don't know the numbers, but that might be kind of an interesting, distribution, like independent distribution route to go down.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that as well. I've thought about that. We'll have to see how Substack goes. A lot of people are complaining about, seems like a lot of people are coming in and the culture is changing, but people have been saying that for a year, and I try to just do what I do and ignore what I can't control. But there's more trolls and there's more people gaming the system. You guys know Medium and how it turned into just great article. Read mine. And it's like, this is some content farm from some other, there's a lot of people trying to game the system. I'm not saying the Substack is necessarily like that, but there's been an uptick in people's suspicions about that.
Right. So you've got some other creative projects in the world. You've got a book coming out, like a sort of retrospective or like a collection of your art and poetry coming out soon.
Well, it's a book. It's a sort of it's a monograph. It's like a coffee style table book.
Yeah.
It's about 300 pages, and it just focuses on my collage work of the past. The years are between 2005 and 2025, and I wanted to have that visual survey done because I felt like maybe it was time to. I've never published anything about my paintings in a physical form.
Right.
So this is something that someone could actually sit down and look at and read, as opposed to scrolling through a website. And it's taken over. It's 20 years of work, and it's taken over a year to compile it, all the slides, get them titled correctly, do some edits. It's organized by city, so it's New York, Noonan, Georgia, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and then it includes, of course, some of the collage work and mixed media stuff that I've done here in Brazil, in Minas Gerais and in Piracicaba. So it's been quite an undertaking, and me and Yasmin have been working on it. It feels like day and night for like a year. We take little breaks, we have to, but it's been a large undertaking. But we're finally at the point where it's ready to be released and ordered. So we'll see what happens.
Where's that going to be available?
I'm gonna link it. It's linked on my website. I'm trying to integrate my personal website, judsonvereen.com, to having we've integrated a bookstore now, so that the books that I've written, the collections of poetry and the novel in this book, once we put it up, it'll be available for order from the actual website as opposed to going somewhere else. And we're also doing prints. So there's a lot of things. We talked to. I think it was the first time we talked, and we were talking about how I sort of work in a little bit of a chaos, and I always have a lot of things going on. I like it sometimes, and sometimes I don't. That's sort of my style, is to work in sort of a fury. And the downside of that is almost nothing ever gets done. The good side of it is that a lot of things sometimes get done all at once, and you find yourself checking off a lot of things. So we're really happy to get the new website up and running, the ability to sell prints. I wanted to make some of my artwork more accessible to folks. Buying an original painting is obviously expensive. Not many people can always afford that. So putting some high quality prints that are framed and for sale for much less than it would cost an original was something that I thought it was finally time to do. So, yeah.
What was it like going through your past work from the last 20 years or so? Like, were there things that you looked at were like, ugh, I can't believe what the fuck was I thinking when I made that? Or were you like, or were there times like, yeah, I was in the zone when I made this. Holy shit! Like,
well, Joe, no, there are probably those times, even though I'm probably less bashful about it or embarrassed about it. Maybe I should be more. I think that what's important to me, and what I've always thought was important to showcase, is a sense of evolution. And so I'm not interested in just showing what I would consider to be my very best. Now, something on a website, something in an exhibition, at a gallery, sure. Yes, of course, you're going to edit yourself down. But when it comes to a monograph and certain displays that are relevant more to the archives, it's important to show the little half tries, the experiments, the things that maybe didn't work, but you kind of can see where I'm going. There's some of those works that might not work are bridges to something that did. And if you can tell that story visually, I think it's important to. I was very influenced by some of the early monographs that I was exposed to, namely Robert Rauschenberg and Willem de Kooning. And those aren't monographs full of masterpieces and always great work. Sometimes they're they seem like fragments of something and you're getting somewhere, but this ain't it. But now that I know where you took it, it's valuable. It's valuable in terms of seeing the journey and seeing the evolution. So the survey is not, I actually have it right here.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's probably, I don't know, it's backwards or whatever. I can't tell. But it goes through a lot of different, I'm not going to flip through it, but it's a hefty thing. And so there's not going to be something that's always full of masterpieces, because I don't particularly make masterpieces. I mean, every now and then, I really don't. I mean, every now and then I have a piece that really stands above and 10 other pieces could speak to it. But that's the way that I make work. And I don't mean to devalue the work that's in there. I mean,
this is terrible marketing for your. This is nothing but masterpieces.
Well, I don't know that the way that I make collage isn't based on that, Right. But people can judge for themselves the value of the work, and when we put it up, we'll have plenty of examples and pages to go through. But it's should be more of a survey of 20 years, and so I don't find anything in there cringeworthy, if that, to answer your question.
Yeah.
But certainly amongst 20 years, there's going to be things of differing value.
So what else you got going on, man? Like, what else you working on?
Well, still writing essays for Substack. I've been, in the past year, I've really I've turned it into a sort of a writing exercise. Are you guys familiar with ekphrasis? The phrase ekphrasis?
No.
Well, sometimes someone will look at a painting or a photograph or any reference point and if someone wrote a poem about, let's say, a Salvador Dali painting, and they're trying to creatively interpret that painting in their own words and sort of use their own phrasing, not from an purely objective standpoint, not from necessarily a descriptive standpoint, but sort of an interpretation of the work that frames the work and kind of maybe gives context to it from a personal standard. I've done a number of those, and I find they're a great writing exercise. So I have a new series called 1,000 Words Ekphrasis, and I've done a number of paintings. I've done Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, and I've done Dali's The Great Masturbator. I've done some Vincent van Goghs. I did a Rauschenberg. And so, basically I have 1,000 words, and that's all I get.
Yeah.
And, I'll go over and then edit, but,
Sure.
I'll do exactly 1,000 words to sort of so the idea is, you look at the painting and then you read what the person wrote, and then you look back at the painting and you go, oh, okay, this is what. So it's a really great exercise. And I feel like I've gotten some good responses, and they're just so fun and so interesting, because the painting is the prompt and it's not yours.
Right.
So you stick in it and then you move in whatever direction you want, but you want to lead back to the visual.
Right.
So for the past year, I've probably done, probably 15 of those, maybe. I don't know, but
yeah. That's cool,
Yeah.
man. Do you have any plans to turn that into like a published work at some point?
Well, one thing we've been kind of thinking up. I mean, I wrote an essay called "Candle in the Rib Cage," which was an open letter to artists in 2000 and in the year 2024. That was the title. It's just sort of a jumping off point for me to address certain ideas about how I saw art and the artist and where the artist stands in a much larger context up against maybe cultural forces or, I don't know, it's really sort of a rambly piece, but it stands alone as a work of art, as far as I'm concerned, as an essay, as a personal essay. And I think later this year, it's going to be time to release a collection of essays that are art related. And I think I'm going to title it "Candle in the Rib Cage."
Oh yeah.
And so there's a draft already of about probably 20 something different essays, and the ekphrasis pieces kind of fit within that.
Yeah.
So I think sometime in the year 2025, I'll be able to put out another soft cover book, a collection of essays.
Judson, did you do the covers for I'm assuming you did all for your stuff, for your books?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a book coming out soonish. We should talk. Maybe if you have the time.
Yeah, sure.
If you have the time, if you want to probably be out this summer.
Okay.
So let's talk and see if we can collaborate on that, because that'd be cool. I'd rather give the business to someone I know and a friend.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do it. I enjoyed the Binge Before Tragedy cover doing that, and I know you like that one, right? Because it's the 5th anniversary.
Yeah, I did. I shared that. I appreciate that, and I couldn't put that like with the book. So
no, I know. There was, I remember us going through that, but it was still a cool marketing thing for at the moment. But if you we can definitely talk. I love to. I still do book covers, although not as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like I used to have this canvas. It was called Canvas, and I would be more actively promoting book cover services and graphic designs of a certain nature. But I found it sort of started to conflict with other things, and there's a lot of graphic design out there anyway. So now it's sort of more like a word of mouth. Like I talk to people and say, "Hey, do you need?" So I'm considering me available to help out with that. I'd love to talk that over with you. And
it's a shitty book, though. It's a shitty book, so I'm not sure you want to attach your name to it. So.
He doesn't know anything about the book. No. It's historical fiction, and let's say it's very much influenced by like the Dred Scott case, fugitive slave, takes place in New Jersey. Young lawyer, that sort of thing. So
okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. That's cool. I don't know why I didn't put that together before. I'm like, oh wait, I know Judson.
Judson, yeah.
Let's see. Let's see if we can make that work.
Please let me take a crack at it. You'll have some ideas. I'll have some, and we can we'll meet in the middle somewhere. Hopefully, at a place where you like.
I'm on your site now. I see the collage is 2005, 2025. So in that, let us know when that is available to purchase. I'd love to get a copy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Yeah.
So how's the art scene in Sao Paulo? Like, is it pretty happening there? I mean, like, I'm sure it's more active than the countryside, but I mean, like, what's like, are there a lot of independent artists there?
Yeah, I mean, in Sao Paulo, it's you just have to think of it like New York City. I mean, might not have that international market, but as far as any sort of comparison in Brazil, that would be the city to compare it to. I mean, there's tons of galleries.
Is that where you saw the Francis Bacon thing?
Yeah, that was at MASP. That's the Museum of Art of Sao Paulo. So I mean, MASP just opened up a new wing, and they had a new opening of like 10 new floors, and a big Renoir exhibit, and some other little things. But I mean, when you can have Francis Bacon and Renoir, and they've got Van Goghs, and they've got Rembrandts, and they've got everything in between. There's a lot going on in Sao Paulo. Sort of like New York, it's like a little bit overwhelming. You won't ever see it all, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, and we've only been here for like 2 months, so we're excited to go out every chance we get and find the new things, find the new happenings, explore. So we're in a different territory. My wife is from Sao Paulo, so she's more used to that.
Yeah.
She knows it much better than I do, but I'm also used to the big city, of course. So I think we're just 2 peas in a pod here. We're doing good.
I went to a small art show last Saturday night, and the art was fine, but one thing that annoyed me was that so many of like the bios, like the artists, they think they're much more important than they actually are. Like they always have, they really like to be like, Joe Garza, his work really explores, that the dichotomy of playfulness and political intrigue in a world that doesn't trust, women's rights, conflicting with a world that hates minority. Or is this sort of like, you're a tattoo artist in a small gallery, you're not changing the world. And it's like, I don't want to be like cynical, but at the same time, it's sort of like, I don't know. I feel like, having like these really heavy-handed descriptions of the artists and how they think that their work is blowing each person's mind and is like the seed of a new revolution. I don't know. I just find it really annoying. Do you find that in Sao Paulo? Are there a lot of artists who think that their work is like, on the vanguard of some new political revolution?
Well, Los Angeles, because just so everyone's clear, I lived there for a while. It's the capital of that. I mean, it's the headquarters of it.
Yeah.
Los Angeles doesn't own the rights to flowery rhetoric when it comes to art.
Yeah.
But particularly when it comes to elements of social justice and more topical political discussion, a lot of artists are struggling for relevance and to be noticed. And so unfortunately, a lot of the artists attach themselves to themes and maybe political movements that feel like will get the light shown on them.
Yeah.
But what you're describing is exactly what I would suspect. A lot of the flowery or maybe even more academic rhetoric comes from a lot of the fact that they most of the time they did go to art school.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately where they learn a lot of that. Yeah. And they don't see the other side of it. You don't need to talk like that. And actually, sometimes when you do talk like that and then someone sees your art, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah. Because
your art isn't doing that.
Right.
So I've always adopted, I've sensed that for a long time. And so ever since I can remember, when I was 18, 19 years old and I was starting to write about my work, you start to write and you think, oh, this is bullshit. I'm not doing so, I've been lucky to avoid that trap, probably because I dropped out of high school and I never really cared about art school. And so, I never felt tempted to write or talk like that, but certain people do. And that's art school, generally speaking, combined with the need to be relevant, generally speaking. And what you get is sort of a kind of a milkshake of isms and social critiques that once you look at the work, it doesn't feel like the work is actually born out of that.
Yeah. I mean, there were like some paintings of like, oh, that's a cool, perspective of like a butterfly. I don't really see how that's, meant to like comment on, capitalism and fascism or something. Just like, Yeah, if they'd just say, "Hey, this artist is inspired by nature and blah blah blah," it's like, okay, cool. Like let the audience come to their own conclusions about what the meaning of the work is. I think that's much more interesting. But when you're like, "Hey, this painting of a tree depicts this social movement," and you're just like, "Yeah, it's a tree."
Yeah. It can be frustrating. It's hard to make. It's impossible to make hard and fast rules about those types of things. But when you see a trend like that, you sort of can't help but notice that maybe that's part of a trend.
And it's important that those of us point and laugh out loud.
Yeah. I mean, if someone were to ask me about my paintings, I certainly wouldn't ever start with the idea of what they represent. I would talk about how I paint and line forming and more craft-based ideas as opposed to political or social narrative.
Yeah.
I don't think for me, that's not what painting is. Certainly it can be,
Right.
I mean, but yeah, there's a lot of that, Joe, and it's everywhere. And I've run up against a lot of that type of art and those types of artists, and they don't particularly like me. I can tell you.
Oh yeah.
I don't
Wear like a badge of honor.
I'm not mean to them. I don't call them out, but I don't do that, and I don't look like someone that does. And there's a little bit of suspicion, particularly in LA for several years. They could sniff me out, and I wasn't very in those places. No.
Well, that's why we love you, dude. And we should probably wrap this up. But dude, thank you so much for coming on. It's always great having you back on. Okay, and then we'll try to get you back on again in less than a year.
Okay. We'll try. But it's always good talking to you guys. Ben, I'll talk to you too about other stuff with the cover and stuff. Congratulations on the new book. I didn't get the chance to congratulate you, but married life is good.
Oh yeah, it is. Thank you.
Wonderful. Glad to hear that. Absolutely, buddy. Great. And feel free to hit me up, both of you guys, whenever, man. Substack, Medium, whatever. If you want to collaborate anything, I'm always down to talk, always down to hang. So I'll see you guys soon, one way or the other.
Definitely, man. And make sure to send us any links for anything that you release. We're happy to help spread the word, man.
Seriously.
I believe we're putting out the website tomorrow, and that comes along with the prints, and then the collage book will be a little later. But I'll give you guys a specific heads up for whatever you guys want to do, whatever you guys think would help, or however you guys want to support. I'm happy to provide you with that, and I thank you.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and we'll talk to you later, dude.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
You too, man. Take care.
The tagline.